Hello, in today's video I'll show you the Leica Summicron 90mm f2 pre-spherical lens, which is an amazing lens for portraits. Hello, welcome back to the channel, Matt from MrLeica.com. Today we have Leica M-mount lens review number 15. If you've not yet seen the other Leica M-mount lens videos, I'll put a link to the playlist at the end, and you can also find a link to the playlist below in the description. This video will hopefully tell you all you need to know about this lens, and at the end of the video I'll share some example portraits. This lens is amazing for portraits. So first things first, how much does this lens cost? This lens seems to be overlooked by many because of its size. For that reason the price is relatively low for a Leica M-mount lens, which is the reason I bought it as one of my first lenses when I had the Leica M9. You can't buy this particular lens model anymore, so the price used after looking on eBay seems to be less than £400. The average price seems to be around 400, but you can pick them up for maybe 350 or slightly higher depending on the version and depending on the condition. As I say, there are a few different versions of this lens. This is the Canada model, and it's got this kind of look to it. There's a few different ones where the focus ring and the aperture ring are kind of different shapes and sizes, but we'll come on to that in a second. So £400 used price, which probably sounds a lot if you're not a Leica photographer, but if you are a Leica photographer you'll be aware that that's quite reasonable for the price of what we pay for lenses. And the great thing is these lenses hold their value, so you're never really going to lose money on buying a used Leica lens. As a nice contrast, the price of a new Leica Summicron 90mm f2 apo lens is almost £4,000, so 10 times more expensive than the used pre-spherical version. It's not quite like for like, but if you just want a 90mm f2 lens for your Leica camera, then in that situation it really is like for like, and you can pay for as little as under £400 used to around £4,000 new. It's a little bit less than 4,000. So a huge difference in price. Yes, the apo lens is going to be sharper and more perfect in probably every way, but if you're on a budget, this lens offers amazing value for money. In terms of size and weight, it's not a particularly small lens, which I think is the reason why the price is so low compared to other Leica lenses. To give you some idea of size comparison, here is my trusty Leica Summicron 50mm 1.4. This is on the bigger end of the scale size-wise for the majority of Leica lenses, but the 90mm is getting on for almost 2 times the size as the Leica Summilux 50-1.4, and you can see the diameter is a lot larger as well. In terms of filter size, I don't use filters with this lens, but what I've read is it's a 48mm filter thread, which is quite a strange filter thread, which is probably why I've never used filters with it. But I don't own any 48mm filters or 48mm step rings, so for that reason I've never used a filter, but I read it as a 48mm, and it's definitely smaller than 49 and bigger than 46, because my 49mm doesn't fit, I've tried. So filter size, I believe 48mm. In terms of weight, this is a dual purpose lens. First, I guess the main reason you'd buy it is for photography, but then if you need to find a second reason for buying a lens, this would make a fantastic doorstop or paperweight. It is weighty. The heaviest Leica lens I own, coming in at a whopping 627 grams with lens cap. Because there's so many different versions of this lens and various information on the internet, I just weighed it myself with the kitchen scales. So 627 grams for this particular model. So in terms of lens design, you have the push-on lens cap, like so. This particular lens has the telescopic retractable lens hood, which is a nice design. The lens has aperture clicks from f2 to f22, and because it's such a big lens, it even comes with its own tripod socket, if you can see that. I've never used that personally, but I guess if you're going to mount this onto a like M3 or something, it's going to be front heavy, so it might be a nice way to balance out your setup. In terms of what cameras I use it on, one of the viewers made a fair point that I always show a Leica M6 in every video, despite owning lots of different Leica lenses. So for that reason, I've brought today the Leica M3 out to show you. The Leica M3 is a great film body choice for the 90mm setup because it has a greater magnified rangefinder compared to other Leica M models. So this has got the 0.91 times magnification, meaning it's easy to focus with longer lenses. If, for example, you do use a Leica M6 or a Leica M5, Leica M7, MP, whatever, I would highly recommend using one of the viewfinder magnifiers. I've shown this in a previous video. If you're using, say, a Leica M6 and a 90mm, it would be so much easier to focus by using the magnifying loop with this lens. I'll put a link to that video in the description because if you're struggling to focus your 90mm with, say, as I say, with anything other than an M3, that magnifier loop which screws onto your viewfinder will make it a lot easier. I'd highly recommend looking at that. So in terms of the look of this lens, being a 90mm telephoto, I don't really notice any vignetting because you normally see that more on wider lenses and less on telephoto lenses for kind of obvious reasons. So I'd say little or no vignetting, even wide open. In terms of sharpness, it's obviously going to be sharper at f2.8 than it is at f2, being an older lens. That said, being an f2 lens, I bought the Summicron to ideally shoot at f2 as much as possible. So if I shoot digital, I'll pretty much always shoot it wide open at f2, and the images are more than sharp enough for my needs in terms of for female portraiture. I'll link examples at the end so you can make up your own mind, but bear in mind that most of them will be shot wide open. If I'm shooting film, in the past I used to shoot everything at f2 also, but more recently I'd probably stop it down half a stop or one stop to get a slight bit of increased sharpness when shooting it with film. Being a 90mm f2 Summicron, the out of focus background or bokeh is amazing. It'll be really soft and kind of dreamy looking. To get the best from this lens, if you can get as close as you can to your subject, which on this lens is 1 meter close focus distance. So I try and use this at 1 meter distance and then have the background away from your subject, kind of behind them. You'll get really nice kind of background separation and really kind of smooth, creamy, out of focus bokeh balls. So if you love that kind of look, I guess it's similar to using an 85mm lens on a SLR camera. The 90mm is a ideal portrait kind of focal length. In terms of flare, this lens will flare if you have the lens hood retracted, and it will flare if you point directly at a bright light source. But I don't find it a problem, and with something like wedding photography, it can kind of add a nice kind of dreamy feel to the images to have a bit of extra flare. In terms of contrast, it's not a super high contrast lens, being an older lens. And if you don't use a lens hood, you'll have even less contrast because of kind of the veiling flare. So to increase the contrast, I'll always use a lens with the lens hood fully out like so. And as you can see, it makes it quite a big setup and it will feel very front heavy on a Leica M camera. I guess the size comparison I should have mentioned. If you've not already seen the review of the Leica Macro Elmar 90mm f4 lens, I'll link it in the description. So both of these lenses are 90mm. This is obviously f2, this is f4. But you can probably see if I go overseas, I would normally take the f4 lens for very obvious reasons. The Macro Elmar is an extremely good lens, but it will give you a completely different look to the Summicron. I would describe the Summicron pre-aspherical lens as maybe soft, dreamy, beautiful for female portraits, and maybe a slight vintage look. The Macro Elmar 90mm, crazy sharp, high contrast, and much more modern kind of rendering. So both these lenses have their uses, but if you want kind of dreamy portraits, this is your go-to lens. And it's also a fraction of the cost of this lens. So if you follow me on social media, mrleica.com, pretty much anywhere, Flickr, Instagram, things like that. If you follow me on Flickr in particular, you'll know that I'm a regular poster and most of my work is portraits. It may be no coincidence that this lens took perhaps 4 or 5 of the top 10 most liked Flickr images I've ever posted of over 4,000 images in maybe the last 10 years. It was holding, I think, the highest positions, is like most liked photos ever taken on my Flickr feed until kind of recent times. This lens is amazing for portraits. I'll share some example images. So these photos are taken from when I first bought my Leica M9 and kind of first got into Leica. So the M9, the M8, and then more recently M240 and Leica CL. And then of course film. So that's the Leica Summicron 90mm f2 pre-aspherical. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, and drop me a message if you're a 90mm Leica shooter or if you have any thoughts on this video. It's always great to hear from you guys, and I often learn things myself in the comment section. Thank you for all of you who are regular contributors. That's it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.